Yo, what is up everyone? Back here with another video. Today we're going to be going over the Pokemon EUIC team that I used to place top 4. Now, this is going to be a bit of a long video because unlike other regional tournaments, which are 2-day tournaments, EUIC is kind of like a long process, I guess I would put it. Because, you know, you're playing over the course of multiple days. Like, it gets exhausting, man. Like, there are a lot of rounds of Pokemon you play and everything. And, like, even for me, someone who, like, doesn't typically mind too much when we're, like, playing for a while, it, like, catches up, you know? So, basically what I'm going to do is first I'm going to take you through an overview of the team itself. And at the end of this video, there will be the team pace as well. Or somewhere in there. I'll put it in there. It might not be the end. But yeah, guys, if you guys would like to obviously get access to the full team, not just the open pace, along with the rental code, make sure to check out Patreon where you guys can get access to that. Also, to make sure to check out coaching if you guys would like to improve your skills. I'm finally back now for the next 2 weeks, so I can finally get to coaching and working with people and helping them improve on their skills again. Obviously, I was away in Germany for the past couple days, so you know, really good to be back and glad to be making videos for you guys again. You guys might notice a bit of a kind of lingering like pause there. Combination of health, life things, and then obviously, you know, like, had they go to EUIC. To be honest, so before we go into the actual team itself, like, I had a really rough week leading up to EUIC, dude. Like, I was not feeling good whatsoever. Not necessarily Pokemon, just, like, personal life stuff. But obviously I bought the trip, you know, I'm going there, like, of course I'm going to do my best, right? So I was pretty confident that I could do well. I will say, like, once I got there, like, I didn't have a team figured out at all. Like, I didn't even know what I was going to use, the day before the tournament. But I was like, yeah, I'll figure something out. So originally, me and Pokey Alex were planning to bring a team that was pretty much an edited version of Sun. And this version had no Grimmsnarl, and it had a Prankster Thundurus on it. I did not like the team. I played it with him a bunch, and I just did not like how the team felt. He felt really comfortable with it. For me, it wasn't something that I necessarily wanted to use. I'd also been talking to a lot of other players, you know, and a lot of other friends, and, like, there was definitely, like, a bit of, like, mixed bag in terms of what people wanted to use, but, like, for the most part, at the time, I was mostly committed to using, like, the same team as Pokey Alex, right? The tricky thing is that I just felt like the Thundurus version didn't really carry enough versus the Ghost-type matchups, and I just felt that in this format, especially, like, where it was right now, that there was going to be a good chunk of Venusaur, and, like, Yveltal Groudon actually really intrigued me because it had done well in, like, a previous tournament, and I had used it in the beginning of the format. I didn't like the way it functioned, though. I felt like it was too passive. I felt like it could be improved on, so I kind of had that in the back of my mind for a while. We had talked a bunch before I ended up flying to Germany, and I told Alex, I was like, I honestly don't think that the team that we're bringing is correct, right? I was like, I don't really want to bring it because I don't think it's right. I was like, we should really be looking into Yveltal Groudon because that team has the most potential out of anything, in my opinion. But Alex, you know, obviously was comfortable with this team. He ended up bringing that. I was staying with Fevzi and Yuki, both, you know, really solid players, talented players as well. Funny enough, Yuki ended up building Marcus's team that he used to finish in top 8 with him, right? And Yuki is the same thing as well. And Fevzi, you know, obviously a really good player. You know, he's done well in previous events before, and he's a really good friend. So, was staying with him, and it was Thursday night, and I was basically saying, okay, what am I going to do, right? Because now it's kind of crunch time. I played versus Fevzi with the Thundurus team a lot, and it just did not feel right. Like, it was just not it, you know, because at this point, like, I hadn't really explored Yveltal yet. So, I was like, okay, I'm going to use Yveltal Groudon, right? Because I think it feels the best. And, like, I will give Fevzi a lot of credit, because Fevzi actually really helped me with it. He straight up told me, he was like, I just think you should use Yveltal Groudon because you'll be more comfortable with it. And also my friend NJ11, I talked to him too, he was like, yeah. Like, he's like, I think you should go with Comfort too. So I ended up bringing Yveltal Groudon. There were a couple problems with the archetype that I didn't like from the previous versions that Philip used and that I used in the beginning of the format. Assault Vest Yveltal felt way too passive, and I felt like I wasn't able to exert enough pressure with it. And also, like, Groudon really wants Assault Vest nowadays. Like, Swords Dance Groudon, and to me, is like a really outdated set that isn't good. I don't think it's particularly amazing. And I think most Groudons should be opting for the Assault Vest item. So I already knew for a start I'm gonna be obviously using Assault Vest, which means that I have to find a new item for Yveltal, which means that I also have to solve the problem of what is a Lecky gonna run, right? So for me, I was like, I don't have a problem changing a Lecky to Magnet. It was running Life Orb before anyways. This just avoids it taking chip anyways, and most of the time it's clicking electric moves. I very rarely clicked Hyper Beam or Max Strike, but when I did have it, it was really useful. And then I put Life Orb on Yveltal, and like. One choice I made that I think a lot of players don't make, which I think is really silly, is I ran 2 dark moves. So I ran Foul Play and Dark Pulse. I think running Heat Wave is just like really lame because I'm just saying, like, in my opinion, like with them on, like Heat Wave is really lame because, like, yeah, sure, you can max flare Zacian, but like first off, they usually don't let you do that to them, and second off, you have like Heat Wave isn't really that useful of a move outside of Dynamax, and there are going to be cases where you want to use Yveltal out of max. Foul Play is such a good move, and like giving up Foul Play because you want to have Heat Wave is just really bad in my opinion, because Foul Play can like pressure so many things. There was like one instance in my win-in actually, there was a +1 Groudon, and I Foul Played it. It just died on the spot. Like it just got KO'd from like 83%, and it was only +1. And like Life Orb Foul Play was crazy, so it was just better. Like it was a much better option, and like I definitely preferred it over the Assault Vest because I was just able to exert a lot more damage. You don't really need the bulk on Yveltal because really the bulk of the team comes from like P2, Groudon, Incin, and like that's kind of the main core to maintain the bulk, and Yveltal is more so meant to be like a strong damage dealer. And anyways, like Yveltal's pretty bulky after 1 max Quake boost, so you could even swap in Yveltal and get a max Quake off on it. I did that a couple games as well, so that was fine as well. So that's pretty much it for like how the team ended up being built. I put on P2 last minute. I didn't like Bronzong. The reason why I didn't like Bronzong is because it's so weak to opposing Yveltal, and also to the problem that you have when you run Bronzong is like it's so passive, and I hate that. Like it was the worst in the Kyogre matchup because I had to sit there and I just had to like click iron defenses over and over again to try and get body presses off, and versus Landorus it was a nightmare because I couldn't damage it quickly. So I decided to change to Ice Beam P2 and run Ice Beam, Eerie Impulse, Recover, and Trick Room. And you might be like, okay, well, like, what's your Calyrex Ice matchup? I found that, like, the way you can approach the Calyrex Ice matchup is basically going with Venusaur Incin. You pressure the Sleep Powder immediately, and keeping Groudon Yveltal on the back is really strong, because even though, like, 3 of your 4 Mons are weak to Glacial Lance, you can pressure Sleep Powder, you can pressure Vine Lash. If you catch the Calyrex Ice on the swap-in, like, it takes, like, a ton of damage, from Vine Lash or like anything else. You know, you can catch it with the Precipice Blades from Groudon, or you can catch it with Foul Play. You just have to be really smart with how you position. You can't just let your opponent like freely get it in, right? So as long as you're pretty competent with the team, like you shouldn't really be having as much trouble as like you would think with this, especially too because a lot of the Calyrex Ice teams now don't carry Finny. Some do. The ones that do carry Finny are like a little bit trickier, but like you can still play around it, you know? So that's pretty much the overview of the team process at all. I did say, though, generally that, like, I wasn't worried about Calyrex Ice because I feel like if you just win the first few rounds, like, you don't really play it. I ended up playing it anyways, but, like, I'll get to that. I still beat it. But, yeah, like, I felt pretty confident with this team overall. Like, obviously, like, the first few rounds, you're not too sure because you're just like, well, I made this choice last minute, but you're like, I know that, like, I'm a good player, so I can do it, right? This choice, too, to run Yveltal Groudon wasn't just because of comfort either. Like, I knew that there were going to be a lot of Lunala and Calyrex Shadow in the field, and this just kind of gave me the edge versus those teams, along with, like, having a core that could still beat the other teams. Because, like, Regieleki is good in the Zacian Ogre, some versions, obviously. Then you have the Groudon P2 Incin into other Zacian Ogre, like, any other, like, you know, Yveltal matchups, those can be a bit tricky, but you can kind of, like, leverage on your Groudon and your P2 and Incin. And, like, I just had a lot of modes that could just, like, beat things anyways. So, first what we'll do is we'll go to the final version of the team while we're kind of discussing this. So, I'm going to go over to here so you guys can see, you know, what we have. So, this is pretty much, like, what I ended up settling on for all the moves and items. Obviously, if you guys would like the rental code or the, you know, the sets or whatever, that'll be later on in the video. But now I'm going to go over what everything does pretty much and kind of go from there. So, pretty much... when it came to this team, I ended up having the Yveltal with Foul Play, Oblivion Wing, Dark Pulse, Protect, you know, Life Orb, obviously able to exert pressure, Groudon, you know, all those sets. You guys saw the stats. But basically, what I ended up wanting to do with this team was pretty much have 2 different ways of pressuring offense on my opponent. So you'll notice through the comment pairs, you can kind of see that. I had P2 Incin as one of my leads because I like to set Trick Room early, get in my Groudon, spam Max Quakes or Steel Spikes next to my Yveltal, or just like have a late game Venusaur depending on the situation after Trick Room expired. Then I had the Regieleki Venusaur mode, where pretty much what I wanted to do is just deal with Sun. This was my default lead in Sun because it just exerted a lot of pressure and kind of forced a 50-50 on the Zard, which I didn't really like. So it just put me in a good position a lot of the time. Then finally, Regieleki Yveltal. This was a really good lead into like the non-Sun matchups, because if they didn't have Venusaur, and like if they weren't Ridnea Sun, like I would lead Regieleki Yveltal a lot because it could just exert a lot of pressure. This was great into like Calyrex teams and great into Lunala teams specifically. Like this was a really strong team overall, I felt, for the field. So I felt pretty confident with my choice. Now, you know, going over a couple of the sets, pretty much, or like going over a couple of like the last minute team choices that like kind of make sense. So I ran Weather Ball over Protect on Venusaur. Main reasoning for that is like I wanted to kind of have a way to deal with like Zacian besides my Groudon and my Incin. Like I didn't like, and like obviously I can max Alecki, right? But like I didn't like just having Earth Power. Like, I felt like you need Weather Ball, and, like, if you think your Venusaur is going to get faked out, you either max it or you swap it, right? So it's really not, like, that much big of a deal. But yeah, that's kind of the main thing I felt. And, like, Ice Beam was way better than Foul Play on P2 because I could just pressure Landorus, which was the main intention of having P2 on the team, along with Eerie Impulse for Kyogre. So it just felt, like, really strong overall. So now what we can do is we can actually go over the tournament run itself. Now, this tournament run was really interesting. I think I ended up playing a pretty decent group of players. You know, obviously in the beginning of the tournament, you're playing versus a bunch of people you might not know as well. But as I got into the later parts of the tournament, I felt like I was playing versus good players consistently. So let's go over here again. Pretty much, we're gonna start from the bottom up. Now, you guys obviously saw my final team. So going into day one, you know, I was sitting down and I was like, okay, I literally just need to not play versus something that is a bad matchup round one, right? And then I can get my tournament started out the right way. And little do you know, I pull probably what I would say is my worst matchup in this tournament. I don't think there was anything else that was like worse than this. Yeah, this was probably no. Torviv's team was pretty close. Victor Medina's team, that was pretty close to being my worst matchup. But like, this team was a nightmare. So now normally you'd look at this, right, and you would be like, oh, okay, like whatever, you know, he has his own Yveltal, but you have like Groudon and stuff. Now my guy, okay, he has Life Orb, Yveltal, and Helping Hand Whimsicott. Now, if you don't know why this presents an issue for the team, first off, I don't have very good ways to remove it unless I max my Alecki, but because I'm Magnet and I'm not Life Orb, I can't one-shot opposing Yveltal, right? So that makes this really, like, annoying. Honestly, like, if it were just Yveltal, I would have been fine, right? But because he has Helping Hand Whimsicott, basically he can one-shot everything on my team if I'm not careful, or I don't call the turn right? So there are two natural ways you can deal with that, right? You can choose to lead Sleep, or you can choose to lead P2 and hope that they just don't nuke you on the spot, right? I think in game one, I led Groudon in P2, and immediately he just, like, Helping Hand Max Darkness into my P2 and killed it. Like, I mean, like, turn one, he just killed it, right? And there was, like, not much I could do there. Like, the Yveltal was doing crazy damage. I thought it was modest, actually, for a little bit, because it was just doing so much. I had to work myself really hard to get in a position to win game 2 and game 3, I think. Like, I had to play out of my mind. Like, I remember game 3, I thought I lost on the spot because turn 1, I maxed Alecki and maxed Lightninged into Yveltal, and it lived. And, like, it was such a bad turn 1. Like that, I thought that lost me the game on the spot, but I think my opponent maybe played a little bit suspiciously, but also, too, like, I kind of just, like, played a bit better, I guess, positioned myself a bit better, but like it was really close. It was a super rough matchup. I was shocked I won this. Then I ended up playing versus Fabian, which was a pretty close match all through and through. Now, at the end, there was a moment where he should have beaten me, but he kind of threw the game. So basically the end game scenario was, and this is like a standard like Ridnea Sun matchup, so I'm not like talking too much about the match itself, because like it's just basically like I lead Alecki Venusaur, you have to call what I do, right? One thing of note though, he was Thunder Wave and Iron Ball and Grimmsnarl, like Trick Iron Ball. So he had like the double speed control that was like super annoying to deal with on my end. So it was definitely like really frustrating, I guess. But you know, it ended up obviously working out fine. I ended up winning, but basically, in our last game, the scenario ended up being where it pretty much came down to him throwing. was I clicked Precipice Blades and I missed his Groudon, which gave him the opportunity, because his Groudon was faster, to like hit me twice. And like I would lose if he hit me with the Precipice Blades, right? So he Shadow Claws me and he crits me. If he doesn't crit me, I'm fine, right? Because then Precipice Blades isn't in range to KO me. But he crits me, so now I'm in range of a -1 Precipice Blades. He thought, though, he was -2, so he clicks Shadow Claw, crits me again, but I live on red, and then I Precipice Blades him back and win. And if he had gone for a Precipice Blades and connected, he would have won. But honestly, it kind of balances out anyways, I guess. I wasn't, like, annoyed because, like, I kind of lost because I missed Precipice Blades anyways. Or, like, I should have lost because I missed Precipice Blades. So I was like, oh, okay, whatever. Like, I'm not going to complain about that. You know what I mean? Like, that's fine. But yeah. Round 3. So round 3, this should have been my toughest matchup, but like I kind of destroyed this. Like I just led Venusaur and I got like every turn right. I would argue too that they should have brought a Moongus here, which they didn't. But even if they did, I think it would have still been really difficult for them. They brought a Lecky both games, which I think was like kind of not the play. I think they did that because they were worried about the Yveltal, but like I kept the Yveltal in the back as like a late game like kind of foul play user. So it was fine, right? I told you guys about my game plan into that already. But basically, like, it was fine. Like, I leveraged Venusaur. I played it really well. And my opponent didn't really get an opportunity to set up Calyrex or, like, do anything with it. I wasted every single Calyrex turn when they brought it on the field. So they just kind of got, like, outplayed there. And I felt really good about how I was doing at this point, right? 3-0. I played 2 really bad matchups, an even matchup that, like, I ended up winning anyways, even though I missed. I was feeling really good about like the tournament so far. So then I play versus Loris Dimela. Now this poor dude, man. I talked to him too, and he was like, "Oh, what restrictor are you using?" I was like, "Let's wait till the game, right?" And then we queue in, and I'm just like, "Oh my god!" Like this wasn't even fair for this guy, dude. Like Life Orb Yveltal into like Solgaleo and Calyrex is like actually just nightmare fuel. Like you can't even do anything into that, right? Like even if he led Thundurus, I just Electro Web and like foul play him, and he loses. So there was no real way that this was going to turn out bad for me. I felt pretty confident. Like, this was already a win kind of by team preview. It wasn't my opponent's fault either. Like, he actually played it as well as he could, game 1. And you know how I mentioned, like, running double dark moves was better? My opponent thought, because I had Dark Pulse, that I wasn't going to run foul play and that I had Heat Wave instead. And because of that, I just won game 2 on the spot. Because he, like, bulldozed his Solgaleo and I foul played it and he just lost it. So, like, that's why double dark is, like, really good. Then I played versus Wolf. So my set versus Wolf was pretty interesting. I probably should have realized that like Venusaur was like really good into this, but obviously like, you know, tournament, playing versus Wolf. I also fell right before this match versus Wolf. Like I literally was walking back to the venue, fell and like bruised my knee. So I was like kind of distracted as well. But like he played super well and I think I played pretty well too. Game 1, I was in a good winning position. Basically the situation was Zacian at red health, Rillaboom, no terrain. There's both sitting there, and there's like 2 turns left to Trick Room, right? So basically, I can Ice Beam a Zacian or attack the Rillaboom, right? Calling the Protect. So I just target Zacian, I play it safe, right? Rillaboom kills my partner, and then Zacian protects. Now it's another turn, right? Because I have one more turn Trick Room. I can Ice Beam Zacian, calling that it's not going to protect, right? And just attacking. Which is also safer because he already burned up a Protect, right? There's literally a 70% chance I just went off of that, right? Or I target Rillaboom calling that he's going to get the double Protect. Now, I opt to target Zacian because I'm going for the safer route. He gets the double Protect. So, he gets the double Protect. He Wood Hammers me again. And then, now I'm in range of a Sacred Sword plus Wood Hammer. So, at that point, I lost the game because even though my Zacian had, I think, a defense boost or 2 on it, I couldn't take Sacred Sword and Wood Hammer at the same time and then like recover up. So I ended up losing to that game 1. Unfortunately double protect, but like I wasn't upset like because in the end I could have called the double protect, right? Like so it was kind of on me. And then game 2 like Wolf just outplayed me with Regieleki, right? Like he actually just like positioned it well and just like destroyed me with it. And at that point, after this match, I was thinking about it more, and I realized that if I bring Venusaur into this team next time I played it, like I was actually very prepared for this team if I played it again. Like let's say I played versus Aaron or something, Aaron or Wolf using it again. Like I knew I had to bring Venusaur with like Yveltal, Incin, and like Groudon, right? Unfortunately, the case never came up, but it was in my mind that like yeah, that's something I should really be bringing, right? Then we have Daniel Hernandez. I believe his username's Danny Hutaku. Hotaku, I think. Anyways, so he has a Galissapod. Now, at first I was just sitting here, I was like, oh yeah, dude. I was like, this is free, right? Like, I got like an Yveltal, you know, he's got like a Kyogre, like this stuff. But like, the Regieleki made it annoying, so I couldn't really like lead Yveltal. And like, surprisingly, the Galissapod was really good. Like, I thought it was a meme, but like, it was actually like incredibly annoying. Cause like, I would set Trick Room to deal with this team, right? Cause all of his mons are like kind of inherently fast. And he literally would just like have Galissapod in the back, and it undersped every single thing on my team. And like, he beat me in game 1 by revealing Encore Whimsicott, and also by liquidationing with Life Orb on my Groudon and swapping in Kyogre. Like, it did so much more damage than I thought it was gonna do. So yeah, it was just like not a good situation, right? Then game 2, game 3, I ended up winning because I just knew all the sets, so it kind of removed like the surprise factor of it, you know. So yeah, I was able to win that pretty fine, and like, that was good because I didn't want to go down to X and 2 at this point, right? Then I played versus Jacopo Gardine. This matchup was really funny. So game 1, right? I lost a lot of game 1s because like I was just being silly. So basically, I didn't look at stream, so I didn't really know like his sets. But Fevzi had actually messaged me on Discord being like, yo, this guy's wide guard, watch out. I didn't see that message. But we lead Aleki, so I lead Aleki and Yveltal, and he leads Lunala and Zacian, right? Now, no, sorry, Lunala and Thundurus, right? So from my end, right, I'm like, you would think it's free, right? But like, I was looking at this, I'm like, this feels like bait. I'm like, it is too easy for me to Electro Web and Foul Play, and I'm like, there is no way this guy didn't know that I was leading this, right? So I was like, I feel like I'm getting baited here, you know what I mean? So I was like literally hovering over the Max Strike and Foul Play button, but I was like, maybe this guy just like, you know, didn't really think I was gonna lead it and like psych myself out. So I click Electro Web Foul Play. Turn 1, he literally clicks the move that I thought he was gonna click. He clicks Wide Guard. I'm just like, dude, I literally just played myself for no reason. You know what I mean? Like, so like from then on, I was like, I gotta trust my gut, man. You know what I mean? Because like I can't be doing this, you know. But yeah, no, it was from there. Like, obviously that game was not great because Thunder's got an Airstream off, and then it was too much for me to deal with, right? Yeah, I think I brought it close, but like it wasn't close enough, right? And then game 2, game 3, I won. I just got the mind game right both games. So game 2, I called that he was not going to wide guard and that he was going to swap Thunders out. So I just clicked Electro Web again and Dark Pulse into Lunala. He lost it turn 1 and he just lost the game from there. Like, the game was literally just over. And then game 3, he let Urshifu Thundurus, and it was a mind game whether or not he just maxes or not. And I just clicked Electro Web and Foul Play again. So and I KO'd it. So like, I think it was a bad matchup for him, but the wide guard's like a really good game 1 tech to like steal the game away, I think. So kind of a cool idea. Then I play versus Ben Grissomer. This team was a nightmare to play versus. At the time, it looked like a really tough matchup for me, and like you guys saw, I lost on stream to it. I figured out though a perfect way to beat this team. I'm not gonna talk about it here because like maybe I'll use this team in the future. I don't know. That's why it's actually only up on the Patreon. Besides that, but like, that's why what's it called? But that's why I ended up kind of, you know, like losing to it. I didn't realize the perfect way to beat it. Game 3, I kind of picked up on almost the correct line, but like I messed it up a little bit. But like in a game 4, game 5, game 6, like I know exactly what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So I think there's a guaranteed way I 100% win this matchup. I'll have to test it at some point, but like I figured that out. Finally, round 9. When I saw this was my round 9, I was actually kind of happy because like this felt pretty easy for me because I could just lead Aleki and Instant and like max it and Lightning, right? So I ended up winning game 1. Like, I just outplayed game 1, right? Game 2, I ended up winning because I crit Max Lightning on like Zapdos, even though I was -2 with Eerie Impulse or something, right? So yeah, it was like kind of like a bit hacksy, but like I was still like fine with it. Like I was, even if I had to play game 3, I was pretty confident I would win. But like my opponent still like, he did his best. Like Regieleki's a really tough matchup when you're running Zacian Ogre, right? Like you have to actually like really play well around it, and it's like super tricky to beat. So if you guys will look, my record day 1 was win, 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 loss, win, win, loss, win, right? So I was okay with it. You know, obviously I would have preferred to be 8-1 going into next day, but like I was literally like, no, like I'm gonna cut this tournament. So Then I had my match versus Casty. This was a pair up for me, so this was super good for my resistance. So a 7 and 2 playing a 8 and 1 is like crazy good for like day 2 to start. On top of that, it was a good matchup for me. So I 2-0'd Casty. He played like super well, first match of the day, so I was playing okay, like I wasn't like making any crazy plays or anything. I literally was just like Yveltal incinning the whole thing, right? Like that was more than enough leverage. Like I was worried he would lead Thunderous game 2, so I changed to Venudon. But like, yeah, I just kind of focused on dealing with like the Venudon lead from his end, right? Then we have my game versus Chalky. I believe game 1, I ended up beating it with Regieleki, and then game 2, so Chalky should have beaten me game 2, but then he just like ended up like clicking a play that was a throw, I think, or something. So I ended up being able to win the game. I remember because we talked about it after the match. But yeah, I mean, it was also too like a good matchup for me, as I mentioned. Like I have Regieleki to lead on, you know what I mean? Like even if it were a game 3 situation, like I was pretty confident I could win this, right? Then we go over to this. Now, this match annoyed me a little bit, not because of like the like matchup or whatever, but basically like this is what happened. So they picked another stream game, right? But they told us that we were going to be on stream after, so they didn't let us play our set. Now, why is this a problem? Torviv hasn't been on stream at all. I have been on stream, I believe, once at this point, right? And the problem is that when they do this, right? You basically, if one opponent has more information than the other, they get to like talk to their friends for the next like 40 minutes and game plan what they're gonna do. Because I don't have the info, I'm just sitting there like, well, that sucks, dude. Like, I mean, I talked to like some people, I got like some information I needed, but not near enough. You know what I mean? Like to game plan it. But like immediately, like after, like, he like, and I'm not, by the way, I'm not blaming Torviv for this. You have to play the game the way it's given, right? Like he went away with his friends, like talk about information, and like I'm not blaming him. Like that's not his fault. Like that's what you're supposed to do, if you have the info. But like it was incredibly frustrating because it was already a hard matchup, and I didn't even. The worst part is I didn't even know what the team was until like 5 minutes before our game. And like I didn't even know, because like obviously everyone else is playing, right? So like I can't even ask around for information properly. And on top of that, right, it was just not so... Oh, I forgot. I just put 2 Incineroars. It's actually supposed to be Torkoal. But yeah, basically, like, I didn't know anything. And then by the time I, like, got information, like, some of it just, like, wasn't there. And, like, I kind of got caught off guard on stream. So, like, it was pretty brutal, dude. Like, I was pretty sad. Like, I remember I talked to Billa about it. And he was like, oh, like, what do you think about, like, 2 stream matches? I was like, honestly, dude, I was like, it sucks. Like, because I was like, my opponent got, like, all the time to prepare for, like, the matchup with, like, all the information, and I had, like, nothing. You know what I mean? And then, that kind of got into the conversation of, like, should they take the players in the back and not, like, let them use their phones or whatever? And I was like, personally, for me, I was like, yeah, like, even if I wasn't the one getting the info, at least me and my opponent would be on, like, the same playing field. You know what I mean? And I think, like, closed team sheet's, like, a big factor of, like, these tournaments, right? But, like, I have connections too. It's just like, yeah, it was just like a kind of messy thing. Like I would have preferred they just took us in the back and like not let us like use our phones or something. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's what ended up happening. So I was kind of sad about the loss. Like I could have played better anyways. I think I was really close to winning game 1, but I choked anyways. So like it was kind of on me anyways. And then game 2, like, he just outplayed me, right? So I wasn't, and like, don't get me wrong, by the way, if Torviv, if you're watching this, like, I'm not mad at you, you know what I mean? Like, that's not your fault at all. Like, you 100% did what you were supposed to. It's just more so, like, how it was done by, like, the tournament. Like, that's kind of what was, like, a bit annoying. But, like, overall, it was fine. Like, I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna win my next 2. I played versus Giacomo, who was also on stream, so, like, I got all the information I needed from this. Like, I knew he was Safety Goggles Shedinja. There was Zacian Ogre, Regieleki, Incin, and Whimsicott. I felt pretty confident in this. I just leaned on P2, Grout on Incin, as I mentioned in the beginning of the videos, like my main matchup into this. And I was able to beat it pretty comfortably. I pretty much just positioned really well with those and was able to win both games in a row. I also called, because his Whimsicott never revealed the last move on stream, but like, I was sitting there and I'm like, why would you lead this into me? And like, it was similar to like that day 1 versus, Jacopo, Gardine with like the wide guard Lunala. I was like, I think he has Encore. And I'm like, so I just trusted my gut. I just hard swapped out my P2 into Incin, and he clicks Encore, dude. And I'm like, man, I was like, thank God I trusted my gut. Because, like, I could have just lost that game if he Encored me. So it ended up working out really well. I ended up winning the game, which was really nice. I won 2-0, so I was feeling really good. And then finally into last round, when I first saw Calyrex, Shadow, and Groudon, I was like, oh yeah, this is great. Then I looked at, like, the last 3 months, like, Charizard, Venusaur, and Regieleki, and I was like, oh, crap, man. Like, the thing is, right, is, like, you would think I have a good matchup into this until you realize that Charizard, Venusaur, and Regieleki are, like, nightmare fuel into my team, right? Because it's, like, 3 things that are annoying to deal with all in one package, and it's not like he has to really bring the Calyrex, you know what I mean? I ended up winning game 1 with Yveltal pretty comfortably. Like, I did lean on Yveltal. Like, Yveltal was still good into this. Game 2, I ended up losing because I brought the same core that he did, which was Venusaur, Regieleki, Groudon, and, like, something else. And then game 3, I believe he led Charizard. But I got him turn 1 with, like, Electro Web, Sleep Powder, like, Max Lightning. Something like that. I forgot what it was exactly. But, like, I ended up, like, beating him. It was really close. Like, he missed Sleep Powder, I landed my Sleep Powder, right? If he had landed Sleep Powder too, it doesn't mean that I necessarily lost. It just would have been, like, super, super close, you know? So, yeah, I felt confident winning that endgame, but, like, the Sleep Powder miss just, like, secured it for me. So I was, like, pretty happy with that, right? But yeah, so really stressful day 2. I ended up making it in, and at this point, like, I'm feeling pretty good, right? Like, I wanted to really top cut this tournament really bad. I wanted to win. Like, I came in, I was like, I'm gonna win this tournament, you know? So I play versus Javier Valdez, and, like, I pretty much, like, at this point, like, we're in top cut, right? So everyone knows our information. I've been on stream, like, 3 times, or, like, 2 times at this point. He's been on stream, like, twice, I think. So, like, yeah, everyone knows each other's information at this point, right? So, like, his whole team I was aware of. I knew every single set, and, like, I knew that his best bring-in to me was probably going to be, like, Zacian, Blastoise, Weezing, Rillaboom, or, like, maybe Dialga in the back, right? He ended up going with the Dialga game plan. So game 1, I led Regieleki and Venusaur because I thought that he was going to lead Blastoise and Weezing. And basically what I could pressure is, like, a Lightning and a Leaf Storm immediately and just KO it. But, you know, he ended up playing it differently. So I still go with Lightning because I wasn't confident he would have the Dialga in the back. Like, I wasn't sure. And I thought that he might max the Blastoise anyways. But no, he just lets it go down. He fakes out into my Lecky, and I clicked Sleep Powder. I clicked Sleep Powder because I thought that, like, if he basically... did I click Sleep Powder or did I click Earth Power? What did I... No, I clicked Leaf Storm. That's what I did. I clicked Leaf Storm because I wanted it to go into Blastoise just in case I didn't KO it, right? But it ended up going in Zacian, I think. So that was fine, right? And then Zacian was in range of, like, a Lightning. I barely ended up playing into a situation where I could beat the Dialga and Zacian in the end game. Felt pretty confident with that, right? I was really happy with how the game 1 went. Now, game 2, I was like, okay, so he's obviously not bringing Weezing Blastoise, right? So, like, and even if he does, like, if I lead Yveltal and Regieleki, like, I can still beat it. You know what I mean? So I ended up leading Yveltal, Regieleki, and, like, I actually didn't know what that 4th move was. I didn't know it was helping hand. Like, I swear, I had, like, a sixth sense this tournament. Like, just like with the Wide Guard Lunala, and just like with the Encore wounds I got from previous rounds, I was like, I think his last move is helping hand, and I think he's going to helping hand the Zacian, because he knows he can't safely fake out anything. So, I click Electro Web and Foul Play, and I crit his Zacian. Now, for context, I already won the game off of that read alone. Like, it was very hard for him to come back at that point, regardless of what he target. Even if he kills my Yveltal there, I still win because I maxed Groudon. His Rillaboom and his Dialga cannot beat me in the back. It's just, the game's just over, right? However, right, because I crit, it ended up doing, like, a lot of damage. I believe I checked the damage calc after too. If he was, like, not that much bulk, which I don't think he was, like, I can one-shot him. There's a potential for me to one-shot him with that double up anyways. But yeah, it was just, like, a really devastating turn for him. Like, it was pretty much a win for me on the spot, right? And I felt really good about that. Like, it was just really nice to just be able to win like that. Then, top 4 versus Eric. So, Eric only has Trick on his Grimmsnarl speed control. And versus Marcus in top 8, every time Marcus would lead Instant Alecki, and Eric would lead Grimmsnarl Instant. And what would Eric do? He would Trick onto the Alecki. So game 1, I came up with this perfect plan. I was talking to Marco Fierro about it, I remember. I was like, and Bill also asked me too, like, how are you feeling? I was like, I guaranteed win this game 1. And, like, as soon as the Iron Ball went into my Groudon, I knew I was in, like, a crazy good position to win the game. However, the problem with that is in game 2 and game 3, it becomes a mind game because now Eric isn't guaranteed to click Trick, right? So, you know, he does kind of get me with the mind game 2, but game 2 is still really close, right? Like, it ended up being, like, a super close game regardless. And then game 3, Eric just like rolls me, right? And it was like a super good set. I recommend watching it. It was like a really fun set overall. And like, normally when I end tournament runs in like top 4, like I lose before winning, like I want to, right? I'm very upset, but honestly, like my set versus Eric was purely him outplaying me, and like those kind of sets don't make me mad because it's like, okay, like this is something I lost because I didn't play better, and like this is something I can improve and learn from. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm not gonna be mad at something that was within my control that I didn't do. You know what I mean? Like if it's like something like top 4 versus Aaron Trailer, which granted I could have played myself into a better position, right? Like when I missed play rough, like yeah, I was upset about that because like I would have been in like top cut, like double protecting the play rough, like that's just kind of annoying. But like, top 4 versus Eric, like, he just outplayed me. Like, I'm not going to be upset about that. You know what I mean? Like, he played well. And, like, there's nothing more to say about that. Like, I gave him a hug. I was like, yo, I was like, if you're going to knock me out, dude, at least win the tournament. And that's what I said to him, I think, on stage. But I was like, congrats, dude. Like, you deserve it, man. And, yeah, and he ended up winning. So, I was, honestly, losing to the eventual champ wasn't too bad. Would I prefer to win? Absolutely. You know what I mean? I always go into tournaments and I want to win. Like, when I don't win, it kind of feels like I failed myself a little bit. But, I am very proud of how I played this weekend. I do know that, like, I'll be able to do it again. I have no doubt about that. So, we have Indianapolis Regionals coming up next. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's a bit of a longer one, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video. I wanted to go over all of this. Once again, I'll show the team one more time, the open sheet. If you guys would like access to the closed sheet and the rental code, make sure to check out, obviously, the Patreon, where I have it all up. And make sure to check out coaching if you guys would like to improve your skills and like for me to work with you to kind of show you how to, improve in the game. But guys, thank you so much for all the support. I noticed all the support over the weekend. It means a lot to me, and I incredibly appreciate it. And I'm just gonna keep working hard. I want to win Worlds, and like that's always been my goal. It doesn't matter that it's my first Worlds. Like I know that I can win Worlds, and like I'm gonna put every ounce of energy I have into showing that I am the best player in this game. And like, yeah, I like matches like mine versus Eric. Like those just motivate me to work harder. So I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you guys so much for the support on our channel. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll make sure to see you guys in the next one. We'll be going over all the other teams, everything else. And we'll kind of do more stuff based around the tournament and the meta game this month. But once again, guys, thank you. See you guys in the next video, and peace.